It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Margaret Strong. She is the president of NAWBO, which is the National Association of Women Business Owners. She is also a business owner herself. She owns an outsourced IT consulting firm, highly successful. I would say from my time here in Sacramento, one of the most respected women in business and small business in Sacramento. So I want to welcome you, Margaret. Thank you for joining on me on the show. Finally, we got you here.
We did, and thank you for that. That's quite an introduction. And I just want to clarify, NABO, I'm president locally because we are also a national organization as well.
Okay. And so maybe we'll dive right into that then. So because I want to make sure we cover both roles, you as a business owner, a highly successful business owner, I think is very interesting, but the NABO side of things, and even NABO specifically on the local level, can you give us an overview of what that organization is?
Absolutely. So NABO is the National Association of Women Business Owners. We're in our 45th year nationally. And we are a nationally based organization that also has local chapters across the U.S. In fact, in California, we are at 9 or 10 chapters statewide. And we work to support and propel women business owners economically, socially, and politically. At our core, we were founded because a group of women gathered and realized 45 years ago, they could not borrow money without a male family member's signature on the documentation.
Wow.
And yes, you think about that, that's not that long ago.
Yeah, I'm like, that's the 70s, right? Mid 70s.
It is mid 70s. The law was actually passed and signed into law in 1988. Ronald Reagan signed it.
Okay.
So I look at that. I was a young woman, just starting in the business world. And so it's been in my lifetime that we couldn't do that. Sometimes it's staggering, but we focus on that. So we have that political side, that advocacy side that is always trying to support and build women in business, but we want to build them locally as well and give them those tools to be successful.
Can I dive into that a little bit on the advocacy side? So it's shocking to hear that in the 80s we're signing laws that are the basic fairness of on the financial side, but so we've come a ways. And I guess I'm surrounded. So I sometimes I feel like I'm sheltered in a way because I'm surrounded with strong women. My mom was a small business owner. My wife was highly successful, working at the city of Roseville in a leadership position. My daughter's one of the top realtors in the region. These are women that are strong, powerful people that they don't get pushed around by anybody, right? And they it's like I wasn't raised around women being treated unfairly, or at least it didn't leap out to me. Obviously, I was raised around it, but it didn't stand out to me.
Well, I think in the finance world, that was probably one of the most telling. I'm with you too. I was raised by strong women. I've tried to raise a few strong women in my own family, and to have that voice, but to look at it from a financial standpoint and that change, what could we do? And what could that change? And it has evolved into, we really look, what is in the best interest of business? We don't take sides. What we do is we take what is the best interest of business. And we do that locally. We do that at a statewide level, and we do it nationally. It gives women a voice in that political arena.
Are the things that you're advocating for, are these women's issues specifically, or are they business issues specifically, or combo?
In a modern time, I think it's a combo, but it's business issues. What is in the best interest of business? There can be women's issues, of course, that come in there as well. But we really, we want to grow our businesses just like you do. Mm-hmm. And I don't look at it in that distinction. What is best for us? There are a number of laws that come through, and some are good for us as business owners and some are not. And As an individual, I don't always feel I have a voice, but as part of an organization, I do. I can lend that voice and use that to be stronger.
We're in a political year. Are there hot issues that you're focused on today, either locally or nationally?
I can't speak to the political side of it. One of the things we do is stay neutral politically. And that is one of the tenets of the organization. From a business standpoint, in fact, today, after this call, we're doing an education call with 2 local women talking about the laws that have been passed in California. And there's a long list of laws that were passed that are going into effect in January that are going to impact business owners. And that's the kind of education we want to bring to the women in Sacramento. Here is what's going to impact you and how the workers' comp changes. Most of these are obviously COVID changes. And one of the beauties of my local group is, or our local group is, it's a collection of women with experience. I call up and say, okay, can you give me a rundown on what this one is, because I'm really stressed about it, or I don't understand what the impact is going to be. And so that's one of our most recent things that we're going to do. And we try to bring that education. I would say one of the things, the positives that's come out of COVID and all the business changes and how we operate, we've been able to move pretty quickly. We moved to the virtual space right away, and we can listen to the members. We can hear what's going on. We can put together a program pretty quickly and get it out to our membership, where, when you were in the physical space, you had to find the venue, you had to select a menu, sell tickets and make sure. We've constantly, talking to the members. And this was one of the things they said. What are these laws? What do they mean for us? And what's the impact?
What's the size of the local chapter?
We're at about 75 active members right now.
Wow.
And growing in this. The chapter's been in Sacramento, I want to say, since 94. And give or take a year, but I know that the charter's in 94. And we've had our ups and downs. 2008, everything that happened in that hit business owners across the board very hard. This time around, March, we were looking at saying, what's the impact going to be? We're finding women are coming to us because we are a resource. We're a community. All of us have found that need to come together for that education, to talk to other people, to get that information as quickly as possible. So that was the positive. We all had those moments of time. I'm sure we'll have some more of what are we going to do? What does this look like? And I don't know what it looks like. I don't know if you do either.
I don't. Things are. I guess it's a little bit like life, but it's definitely a lot like business. When you think you know what to expect, you're a good chance that you are wrong. And I think staying nimble is part of being a small business owner, and it's just kind of what we have to do.
Most definitely. And so we're just trying to bring that community together. I truly don't have any statistic to back this up, but one of our conversations last week, our board of directors gathered to do a strategic planning session. We're trying to see what can we do? What are we going to do for the next year? And we are hearing that there are women leaving the workforce, just the pressures and the challenges of work, of family, the schools. They are deciding to leave their jobs, the corporate world. We think that's going to lend to women starting businesses. Women are resourceful. And we want to get out there that we can help, because we have businesses just starting out. We have businesses that are long established in this community and doing very well. And I think every size in between, which makes us one of the more unique business organizations in town, because we want to bring those resources to each level. You can learn from some, you can teach, you can learn from others. I use this analogy sometimes. I like being a middle fish, because as a middle fish, I can teach and I can help, but I also want to learn from the bigger fish. And because I don't want to stop learning, there's always something new I can do, a new approach. As you said, if we stop learning on this, we won't be successful.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like this show, I end up being a student, and it's about inspiring people and educating people about entrepreneurship. But I become inspired. I become educated sort of through the process, kind of the fun of getting to meet highly ambitious, highly successful people. But you mentioned something that I want to dive a little deeper into. Around COVID and the specific impact on women. Do you feel like that the impact of COVID was disproportionately or is disproportionately affecting women in the workforce?
I think it could be. My comment, we're hearing that specifically that women are having to make. I actually had this, NABO nationally did just do a COVID study through July and August, and they polled the membership. And I think 60% said, yes, this has impacted revenues in our businesses. What I liked, though, there was the other statistic. They said 70%, and I honestly think this is just higher in business owners. 70% said failure is not an option here. And I think we all look at it that way. I'm going to find a creative solution. I'm going to find a way to do this. How I operate 6 months from now and how I operated 6 months ago, I didn't predict that. But I know we're thriving, and we want our community to thrive through that. We got those resources of, information as PPP was going out. And how do we get that information out to them? And our membership was successful. I think over 50% applied, and 80% of those people got it, got the PPP support. So it does impact us. It impacts the family. We are business owners. We're moms. We're partners. We're spouses. We're all of those things wrapped into one, trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, it's interesting because, every family operates a little bit differently. And, back when I was growing up, my mom was sort of more responsible for making sure that we had dinner on the table and that kind of thing. And my wife is a little, our kids are grown now, but generally have been more responsible for that. But we shared the duties more than what my mom and dad did. And now in today's society, so that's kind of an interesting thing, is where kids are being educated. They're having to do Zoom calls from school or from home for their schoolwork and so on. I feel like and I don't have statistics to have a feel for this, but it still feels like women carry a heavier burden around maintaining the household than what the guys do on average. Maybe some guys would be like, "What are you talking about?" But it still feels like that in my world.
I think they're probably overseeing the education. Our kids are grown too. If this had been 10 years ago, I would have been in that boat. I had 5 kids at home 10 years ago, and gratefully they're all young adults and working and thriving. I've thought about that. How would I have done it? How would we have done it? And I'd like to believe, we would have divided it up as best we can and figure it out. But yeah, you have to I think it through. I'm like you. I grew up in a very traditional nuclear household, and we don't operate that way. We have to divide the tasks and the duties with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully. That's always been my goal. And I've always looked at it. Some days we were balanced, some days we weren't. It's still that way. Some days one of us does more than the other. It just kind of depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting to think about, with this, we're focusing a lot on maybe the differences between what a woman goes through as a business owner and a man. And you keep bringing, or I'm thinking that way, right? As this is part of the conversation, you sort of keep bringing it back a little bit to, hey, we're all business people and we're looking to just grow businesses and be successful. But do women businesses, there's been this in careers, you hear things like the gender gap and, glass ceilings, and in the venture capital community, right? I'm an investor, so I end up investing into men and women and minority, and there's a lot of diversity in my investments. But you hear about organizations or opportunities that really aren't there as much for women or minority or certain, parts of our population. I mean, do you feel like, is that a part of your focus there with NAWBO, and do you feel like that problem, or that the inevitability of, like, I don't know, people being a little bit biased, is how big of a problem is it in your world?
I think that we focus on what we can do to make a difference. And you touched on capital, and I would agree. Access to capital still can be an issue for women. Women tend to go to their personal resources first, savings, credit cards, maybe a personal line of credit, and they're not as likely to go to access, to the traditional capital avenues. And we actually have it from a platform, we call it the 4 C's, which is capital. We want to educate women on that access to capital. And we have partners nationally and education platforms, even a network. When I say it's not just local, somebody reached out to me today in an email and said, hey, I'm looking for a resource on something. I will start with our local membership, of course, but then we can reach out nationally and say, if there isn't somebody here with that specialty, I can find you someone. And we have those partners nationally to do the financial education, to do that access to capital. But I think the second part of that is both community and confidence, which is what we want to educate on. That community, as I said, to be able to reach out and say, hey, I need help on my 401k. I've got to do a new plan for my company. Do you know anybody? Or, who have you used? And women will tap their community. And I think it was one of the things that drew me to NABO in the beginning, was just that sense of community and that support. Says, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to find you someone who does. Let me do some homework. And I tell you, every time I've asked that question, someone has come through for me and said, or they'll get me to the next person and the person after that. But we want that community, and we also want to help build up that confidence so that women know to ask, to know to go to that channel and change that perception, change that directive, be prepared, have that education so you go into that meeting knowing what your financials are, what they look like, what they're going to ask you, and be prepared to answer it.
It's interesting because I found this with myself as a guy, and I've seen this with a lot of entrepreneurs, men and women, that as soon as they get funded, as soon as they get somebody to show confidence in them, it can be sort of infectious, and it's those limiting beliefs that we all have at some level that really hold us back. And when we begin to believe in ourselves, the sky's the limit. And so I sit there and say, boy, I got that. I have those same limiting beliefs, right? I sometimes don't believe in myself. I got these problems too, and I haven't been, I didn't grow up, in the 70s as a girl or a woman, and so I shouldn't have those as much as maybe what you do, or you might, or the people that in your world might. So I sort of wonder, how bad it might be, or how limiting it might be. Because I know sometimes I'm afraid to go ask other people for help.
I think it's common. I think you talked about it. We get in this bubble of either the confidence, or what do we talk about, the imposter syndrome? What if they find out I don't really know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
yes.
And I know that's not unique to women. I know many entrepreneurs and business owners in this town that we all have those moments of doubt, but having a community to talk about it with, because I'm pretty sure we all have it. And on any given day, something may happen that we feel that way. I think it's a great time to come of age when we're aware of this difference and we're aware of this change and this support that exists out there.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I was a kid in at the beginning, and you're not as attentive to it. I certainly was fortunate. I had strong parents, and if you ever sit at the dinner table with my parents and my siblings, it's still loud and raucous and a lot of opinions. And I'm grateful for that. I want to pass that along.
How many children, how many brothers and sisters did you
There's
have?
4 of us total, 2 brothers, and I have a sister. And what is the current 3 business owners among us?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, okay, so we were talking about your kids earlier, or what your daughter specifically. She's a captain in the Army, right?
My daughter-in-law, yes.
Your daughter-in-law, and then your son is in the Army as well.
Yeah. Captain as well.
He's a captain as well, and so you and your kids are successful. Your brothers and sisters sounds like they've been successful. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about. Right next to me, I have Ronald Reagan, and it says, "All great change in America begins at the dinner table." How much do you think that affected you guys? That raucous behavior, where your parents sort of allowed that, or maybe even promoted it.
You hit my sweet spot, because yes, I grew up at the dinner table. I grew up with, you were home, mom had dinner, we had conversation. I think it shaped it. And we really tried to bring that with our kids. And you were competing with soccer and school and whatever, and friends and whatever outside activity, but whoever was home ate at the dinner table. And it might have been takeout from In-N-Out, but it was still, a gathering. And when they're grown now, we still eat it. Everyone when they come home, we still eat at the table. I think that that's where community begins and conversation. I can't point to one other consistency except that we had meals and talk. And if there's anything you can bring back, and maybe this time period has brought that back, I hope so.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it has for our family. And so hopefully there's other families out there that are feeling that there's a silver lining at some level, where you step back from it all at the beginning of, COVID specifically, which was, February, March, April, when there was so much, there's still a lot of uncertainty, but really it was, a complete, we were floored, right? We were standing in line for toilet paper. And
I remember that Costco run. I never thought I would see that day.
And it's like, what are we living in now? And maybe it's, almost feels normal at some level to be doing a Zoom call instead of a face-to-face podcast. But I don't know. I sort of feel like there's a silver lining for our family of we stepped back from it all and thought about what was really important. And, we were able to rally around some of those things and some of those principles, like family, that are really important to us. So I hope, I would guess that women are disproportionately affected by COVID because of the family obligations and the fact that they do a lot of the household duties for most people. And, that they are carrying a heavy load. So I hope there is a silver lining for not just people like me, or not just guys, but I hope everybody who's going through this has found some sort of silver lining.
I think so. In partnership and working together, and that time together, I didn't realize how busy I was until it all hit. And then, obviously we had to ratchet that down a little bit, and it's slowly ramping back up. But I think it's with balance a little bit more. And you talk about, I know your children are grown too. You go back to that time at the table, now that they're young adults, they'll say things and you'll, in the back of your head, you'll go, I remember talking about that, or the things they absorbed and heard and can carry forward, whether they start a business, whether they join a business, or decide to pursue a different passion, they're taking that forward with them. So that's what we can give them.
Yeah. Okay. So getting involved in NABO, how does the average citizen or woman or business owner think about engaging with you, and what do we get out of it if we get involved?
Membership is easy. We have a link on our website, and you can go to NABO.org, which is the national site, and link to membership. Membership is, I believe, $360 a year. What do you get? You get a voice. You get that from a national all the way down to a local. So you can participate locally. We actually run regular programming every month. We do a monthly lunch and learn, which Zoom has improved because we have that chance to bring people together that maybe wouldn't have taken that drive, that extra 30 minutes to drive. We always work through a topic. We have a moderator that we like to call it a mini mastermind, but it's really, I've always been fascinated by our lunch and learn, where the topic starts and where the topic ends as we work through it. But we do that monthly to connect women. And then each month we're doing local education. As I said, we're doing a legal review or legal education because it's really important right now. We'll bring experts, subject matter experts in to talk with the group as we listen and poll. We're currently polling our current membership to say, what is on your horizon? What do you want more information about? And then we've been creative in this space everyone wants networking as well. So we'll have the Zoom cocktail hour. We've got a couple, now that we know we're in this for a while, our programs director is getting very creative with different things that we can bring to the table. But you have that engagement level. You have that access to, as we were talking about, hey, I could use help with something. Mm-hmm. And we really do try to foster that environment that says, I need help. Who can help me? I walked into a room, 5 years ago. A friend had said, hey, I've heard about this group, and let's go check it out. And I tell people this, they don't believe it. I'm actually very shy. I'm very much an introvert. You and I've had that conversation offline, what the introvert life is like. And I immediately was welcomed in a way that I hadn't experienced in another group. It was like, hey, what do you do? Welcome to this group. And we've always kept that. And I'm not the only one that we've talked about that with other members. They come, they feel welcome. You feel a part of a community. And then you can, with, again, the changes most recently, it used to be the national education might not be as easy to get. You might have to go to our annual conference. Now it's all online. They're doing that same monthly programming, that same engagement. I participate in a mastermind, a NABO mastermind on a national level. So I'm getting 10 other women business owners' perspective across the country. And we're dealing with the same things, but sometimes we're dealing with different things, and you get that perspective that comes with it. So
on the local mastermind, that's available to any member, any local member, chapter member.
It is, yes.
And how many people might be on that call? I'm trying to visualize. So you and I are both familiar with an organization called the Entrepreneurial Organization. Your husband, Michael, and I are involved with that. And, we're in small groups of 8 to 10, and we meet monthly. But it's not really mastermind-like. There's some amount of masterminding in there, but typically there's not a moderator specifically around a specific issue. So I'm imagining your mastermind being potentially better in some ways, where you're really rallying around. It's a lot of interactive communication, rallying around a specific topic. But how many people are on those calls or those meetings?
So it's always the first Wednesday of the month, and We have with the Zoom 20 to 25 women on the call. And we have someone who's mastered the Zoom breakout room, which is a great new tool to bring into small group and bring back. And the topic a couple of weeks ago was grit, very relevant right now. And she'll bring to us she'll start with guidance. Here's where we're going to start. When we met in person, we did it on a whiteboard, which was equally, you draw and see where the topic. I've never walked out of one without something, at least one thing that I could take that was thought-provoking, that I could use, put to use in my life or my business. So we do it and with the topic specific, we could probably go 2 hours, but we do try to keep it to an hour and honor everybody's time.
Yeah. Are they typically at night or do you mix?
Lunchtime. They're called a lunch and learn.
Oh.
So you bring your lunch. You either eat online. When we were in person, you bring your lunch and we do it over lunch.
Okay. All right. So I feel like anything else that we should talk about on the, I guess on the women's front, if you will, to make sure that people know enough about NAWBO, and maybe we've sort of explored the specific issues about women. We could go on any direction, probably for all day, but I want to make sure you have a chance to share a point of view that's maybe I want to make sure you have a chance to get out whatever you need to get out as for our Sacramento women.
Our number one mission here is to have women thrive in the business community and not just feel like they're surviving. And those are the resources we put towards it. And that's really the message. It's to thrive.
Okay. All right. So, we don't have a lot of time left, and I know you have a meeting coming up, and we spent no time talking about your IT consulting company, which I know is highly successful. But let's talk about grit then. Let's just, since you brought it up, every entrepreneur that I've ever spoken to has had ups and downs. And do you have a grit story for us in your business? Because it's highly successful now. Maybe give an overview of what your business looks like today, and then maybe share with us a grit story.
Oh, goodness. Well, we've been at this for 20 years. So there are definite ups and downs. I think that, financially, you've got to have that grit when the project you projected doesn't come through. And I would say early on, I used to get super stressed. This is going to be the end of the world. It's going to be the end of everything. And I think what grit teaches you is, nope, this is just a passage right now. I can remember losing our single largest client at the time, and they were bought by somebody else. And that happens, and they move on. And you go, you know what? Your first reaction is, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? But grit teaches you, this could be a good thing. And it was. You open up new avenues for business. You open up new channels to search for it. You get better every time you embrace grit, that you embrace the change instead of saying, this is disaster, this is awful. So I think that's been the lesson 20 years into this is, look at it as an opportunity. So the change is happening. The business that we were 20 years ago and the business we are today are very different. Tech is very different. Almost everyone here has grown up with this idea that the computer has always been on your desk. And I can remember my first job where we got the internet and
yes.
Yeah. And this magical internet. And I sound really old when I say that, but it wasn't that long ago. So it's change. It's embracing that and not being afraid of it. If that's any lesson you have to keep learning as an entrepreneur, don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. Well, I have certainly had my ups and downs in business, and during those down times when you're trying to figure out, I guess, what you're made of and trying to decide whether you have grit or not. One of the biggest helps for me, I would say, as much as anything, maybe the most important thing was relying on my business partners and my inner circle. They sort of helped me find grit when I didn't know I had it. So if I had a message to anybody out there that's got a small business, women, men, either, it is have somebody in your life that makes you feel just a little bit less afraid, because the tough times, they're coming, whether COVID was it for you or not, or whether it's COVID. Put some people in your life, get some equity in some relationships in your life where you owe each other. And because you know what, getting through and finding grit, sometimes you're looking for that grit and it's hard to find, but you can find it with the help of other people. That's my experience.
I agree. Whether it's a partner in the business, if you don't have a partner in the business, find a group, find people that will give you honest perspective. I spend 24/7 with my partner. And so there's some balance there, but fortunately, when one has doubts, the other one usually doesn't. So that's good. And it helps lift up and keep it going forward. But yeah, you need community. You cannot do this by yourself.
All right. Okay. So, Margaret, I've enjoyed the conversation. I've been trying, I've wanted to get you on the show. I think we talked about it first. It was over a year ago. Finally,
we're here.
Yeah, it's here. I'm slow, but I'm here. And so thank you for being here. But I want to make sure again, give you a chance. Any closing thoughts as we sort of wrap up the show today?
I just want to thank you. You're right. We've been talking about this since I took the helm of NABO locally and through the other business organizations. I really what drove me to it was a sense of community and finding those people to work with. And that's what I say we're here for. Community, help you, education, support, help you find your grit if you need it right now.
Yeah.
And from a NABO, check us out. It's really a chance to see who we are and what we can help you do.
Wow. Margaret Strong, thank you so much. I love what you're doing with NABO. I appreciate our friendship and respect for being an Army mom, as a Marine Corps dad. I know that sometimes can be a stressful part of parenting. Anyway, much love and respect, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at HaneyBiz, we are always by your side.